Hello, everybody, and welcome to Write Something Weird, your favorite literary show where we talk about building community and creating cool art. I'm Sophie Stern, a paranormal romance author in Kansas City, and I'm here tonight with my wonderful guest, Matt Ford. Hi, Matt.
Hello, hello, hello.
Really happy to have you on the show. So,
Thank
Matt, you and I met totally randomly at AWP at a reading, which I think is really cool. And I know we're going to talk about AWP later on in our call, but just wanted to do a shout out that you never know who you're going to meet and what friendships you might build.
Yes, yes, no, absolutely. Yeah, you never know what is right around the corner. So, yes, AWP.
So, Matt, you write everything. You've written articles and blog posts, you've given talks, you're a professor, you're working on a novel. Did you always know that you wanted to be a writer and create art?
Yeah, so it's really funny. So, I love telling this story because I get to just be a dork for like 2 minutes. So
Okay.
when I was a kid, so I have an older brother. I'm the youngest of two. I'm technically five when you kind of saw together. I won't get into all
Oh,
the details, but
okay.
my older brother Malcolm, he, was going to school before me, and I was always jealous of him when he would come home and have to write these things that in my what 3, 4-year-old mind thought was current events, but was actually a current event. And so he was writing like, short pieces of basically journalism. And
Yeah.
so I was very jealous, and my mother had to give me homework. And so she would just like give me something to write. And that's actually kind of how I started writing. From there, it turned into actual journalism eventually, writing articles. I've been a journalist off and on for like 20 years,
Oh, wow.
writing short stories, and I just never stopped writing. So thank you, Mom and Malcolm. So yeah, it started off really early, and then with teaching too, which I know we'll get into later. But yeah, it kind of felt like I do believe that everyone has a gift. And that everyone has like something that they are, at least one very particular thing, at least one thing that they're sent to this earth to do. And I really do believe that writing and teaching were mine.
I absolutely love that. And it's so fun talking to other writers because I feel that way about writing too, right? Like it's all I think about, it's my favorite thing, it's wonderful. Do you have a favorite type of writing, like short stories or articles?
Good question. Yeah. So as someone who writes everything, right, it's really hard to choose, but honestly, I feel like it is in the moment right now. I'm really back into fiction. I was reading a
Oh,
lot of nonfiction for the first half of this year because I'm also running a publishing company and I'm launching a magazine, which we can talk more about later. And so
yeah.
I've really been thinking about entrepreneurship. So
Yeah.
that's all I've been reading for like the past couple of months. But now I've really just been enjoying novels, especially since I just finished up the draft of mine. And so so I tend to read a lot of whatever I'm writing. And so if I'm
Okay.
focusing on poetry, I'm reading a lot of poetry. So my favorite is it changes every time I write something different. But if I have to choose one, you twist my arm. You really twist my arm. I love the world of fiction, and I think that that's why that
Okay.
ended up becoming my first like major book project amongst other book
Yeah.
projects I've been working on. That was the thing that I was like, you know what? I'm gonna finish this first. There's something about fiction and
Yeah.
the worlds you can create and the people, or it's and how the characters come to you and how they do talk to you. I mean, I've heard
Yeah.
many authors talk about this and that um characters, we don't create them. They talk to us and they
Yeah.
show up in music or in conversations, and then they demand that we tell their stories. And
Yeah.
something about that is so special. Yeah.
I totally agree. And it's funny because I feel like when I first started writing fiction, I would hear people say that and I thought they were crazy. I
Yes.
was like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
But now I'm like, it makes perfect sense, right? Like you talk to your characters, you get to know them, you share their story. Sometimes it doesn't end up the way you imagined it. They kind of take
Mhm.
control.
Oh yes, they absolutely do take control. They have, I mean, some of the I was just thinking about this actually the other day as I was finishing up my manuscript and sending it off
Yeah.
for publication. Hopefully, it'll be. someone will take it and say yes and put it on
Someone
bookshelves
will
and
take
put it
it.
in
I
people's
have full
hands.
faith in you.
Thank you. Yes. But I was thinking about that very thing. Some of the hardest, I think all of the hardest chapters to write, there were three in particular. It was really the first three chapters. They were so hard because those characters were demanding so much.
Yeah.
I would like stop writing like for months and be like, oh God, if it, like, okay, I'll get to this scene later. And when I would come back to it later, the scene would be the same. And it was like, okay, you have to write this thing. And so,
Yeah.
I do believe that, yeah, and you don't know where the characters will take you.
Hmm.
And I think that those are definitely some of the hardest parts of writing a novel, some of the hardest parts of reading a novel.
Yeah.
I have a little book review series I've been doing. Characters are
Okay.
difficult.
They
Characters are
are.
hard. They're
They
hard,
are.
but they're special. And so
They're
fiction.
they're so special. I love
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
Now, with the understanding that writing is hard, you're an
Yes.
English professor. Has the way that you approached writing changed since you started teaching?
That is such a good question. And I was really excited to answer this when you sent the questions over to me. It has, because I think it's made me first a much better editor,
Okay.
which is interesting. So I've been an editor professionally for now 9 years. So I started editing in my senior year of college when I was at Morehouse. I went to Vassar College, but I had a year-long exchange at Morehouse that Vassar paid for. Shout out to Vassar and Morehouse. And it was there I took a little writing boot camp and started editing. And so
Cool.
that's like I've been at the same time as writing and being a journalist and all that, I've also been deeply in the world of helping other people bring their stories to life. And so having that balance I think was already making me a much sharper writer. But
Okay.
working with students have and also teaching like composition, especially, like
Hmm.
English 101, right? That's made me kind of go back to the basics and really make sure
Hmm.
that what I'm saying is really clear. And so I always ask my students, if I'm assigning something to them, are the instructions really clear? Are my
Yeah.
rubrics really clear so that you know exactly how you're going to be evaluated and all of that? And so I think I've become a much clearer writer and especially now that I'm putting together the packages and queries and all of that, to send people off chapter summaries. I've really started to kind of think through the second component, which is making sure that you're not only a clear writer, but that you're also a very thorough storyteller. And
Okay.
so I years ago I TA'd a year-long creative writing class teaching poetry, nonfiction, and fiction for my MFA at UCSD. And so
Cool.
there, I think that process kind of started of
Hmm.
regularly reading and critiquing student writing, having conversations with them about the writing to make sure that your intentions are very clear. So it's got me really thinking about audience. And now teaching writing in my own classrooms, at the professorial level has only sharpened that. So I think all of that yeah, it's made me a much clearer writer and I think a much better storyteller for sure. And shout out to all of just my amazing students who inspire me. I learned so much from them. There are so
Oh
many
yeah.
things about, I'm writing about a high school student, that's
Yeah.
the protagonist of my first book. And so it's really made me think, well, if students their age who are in their senior year of high school or about to go into college, what are things that they're thinking about? What does their
Yeah.
identity look like? What does their language look like? And so that's impacted my dialogue, setting, and all of that. And so, yeah, and this generation's fascinating. Generation
Oh
Z and
yeah.
Generation Alpha, they are some very interesting creatures, and I love them. They're really changing the game. And so all
They
of
are.
that, I've learned so much from them, and I learn every day being an educator.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. I love that. What a great answer. And I
Thank
love
you.
what you mentioned about generations. I
Yes.
feel the same way. And I'm a millennial, and there's so many times when
I'm a
I'll
late
be talking.
millennial, 1990.
Okay. When I'm talking to someone who is Gen Z and I'll say something, they're like, well, I don't care about that. Or I don't care what this person thinks of me. Or they'll be really tough or
Yeah.
like standing up to like their family and I'm like, wow, like you
Yeah.
are really cool and you really
Yeah.
have it together and the way you approach the world is very different from like someone a little older.
Yes, they're very, very brave.
Yes.
And I was actually just talking about this with a friend. Well, who's actually here. She's doing work. She's on the bed. So shout out to
Okay.
Jazz. We were just talking about this generation, we and I say we because as a late millennial and also one who is only about a decade-ish older than my students,
Yeah.
I can kind of understand what they're going through and I can relate to them. They really want to work hard and do what they want to do, but they also really do not believe in being burnt out. And
Yes.
so they are really kind of changing the game and creating a new paradigm around work and not work-life balance, just life balance. How do you balance
Yeah.
all the things in your life and really seeing those as all this kind of this big pie, because I just
Yeah.
bought pie the other day, this big pie, not just this, not as like two separate things, right?
Hmm.
And so anyway, I forget where we were going with that, but I just
That's
wanted to
okay.
put that out there about
Yeah.
generations and just what they're, oh yeah, them just being so courageous and brave. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're really changing the game. And I really respect that and stand with you all. Yeah.
I love that. Well, that's a perfect segue to the next question because I
Yeah.
wanted to ask you about writing things that are hard. You don't shy away from tricky topics.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to someone who wants to be brave and write something political or challenging or just something that they're not sure how it's going to be received? What advice would you give to them?
Yeah, thank you. And that's such a great question. I was really excited to answer this one too. I this is gonna sound so cheesy, but I really do mean it. And I can be a really cheesy person every now and again, but really like just be yourself.
Yeah.
I have learned that no one writes like me, and I think that it is one of my greatest, it was once one of my greatest hindrances, and it is now one of my greatest superpowers. And what I mean by that is, yeah, I've never seen anything else like my writing, and I'm not tooting my own horn about, oh, I write such like original things. I say that as like I don't fit into spaces. I get rejected a lot. I mean, and let me just say this for all the writers out there, rejection is constant. It is just a part of the process. But it is those yeses that I've gotten from other people who either write strange things or read strange things or just think not even just outside the box. There is no box. Like I'm also an air
Yeah.
sign, okay? I'm a Gemini. My birthday is 2 weeks from today. So shout out to the Geminis, we live in the air.
Mhm.
We live in the non-traditional. And I have learned the hard way, and I really do mean it the hard way, and I've really gone the long way, to quote Solange. I love bringing up that quote.
Of course.
Just taking the long way. As an artist in that you are going to fight really, really hard to be accepted in the traditional way, and it is okay if that does not happen.
Yeah.
There's always going to be someone who understands you or your work. I mean, even the fact that I'm even, on this program right now,
Yeah.
is a testament that someone believed in my very strange work. And I will also say, go to the spaces that will nurture your very strange work.
Yes.
One thing that I was very adamant about when I was choosing an MFA program, shout out to UCSD, an imperfect program, but the perfect program for me.
Okay.
Um, in that I really wanted a program that was explicitly cross-genre. And as far as
Interesting.
I know, and let me also explain like a little bit of what
Mhm.
that means. Um, MFA programs tend to be either fiction or poetry, period. There's
Mhm.
very, very rarely nonfiction. You're starting to see an increase just in the last couple of years, more nonfiction programs at universities and colleges. You're seeing more low res programs, low residency programs. But you're not seeing very many, if at all, any cross-genre programs and programs that explicitly teach you across poetry, nonfiction, and fiction.
Okay.
And I was very blessed to have a job at the time where I was talking with a friend, Bree Pickens, shout out to Bree, when I was working at the Art Institute of the Art Institute of Chicago way back in like 2018 when I was starting to think about MFAs. She had done her MFA at Brown, and it was one of those programs that is very odd, very strange, and
Yeah.
doesn't force you to choose a genre. And I was like, that's cute, but I need warm weather because I'm originally from Detroit, born and raised, was living in Chicago. I was like, I've been doing this for 20 years. I need the sun. Where is
Yeah.
that? And she happened to tell me about the UCSD program. And long story short, I eventually got there. Hooray. Also, go to fully funded programs. Don't pay if you can help it. I literally, especially people of color, most especially Black people, I literally do not believe in paying for education as a Black person. Like, I quite
Okay.
literally, philosophically refuse to.
Okay.
And I
Yeah.
have been very blessed to get the reparations that I believe are owed to me. And so I believe like be very clear about what you're looking for
Okay.
so that you can get the guidance that you are really looking for. Go places that will really respect your work. And so your work is strange. Let it be strange. Don't try to force it to be anything that it isn't. Get used to rejection. It's okay. Someone's gonna say yes. A lot of people are gonna say yes. So go toward those people and ignore everyone else. That is my TED Talk.
That was a great TED Talk. And I love what you said about rejection. I mean, I do think it is part of like the writer's journey. Has
Yeah.
that impacted you at all as you've written your book? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Ooh, juicy Oprah questions. No, like that is actually that's such a great question. And the first time that I think I really thought about it in that way, the rejections not just influencing my work, but I think also helping my work.
Yeah.
Because whenever I talk with people about it, or have sent samples, or I've done fellowships or whatever to create it, it's always been those people who really get it. I never had to explain anything about my work. And I think that it's
Mhm.
really important to not feel the need to explain your work. It is for those for whom it is. Or as my godfather says, um, those who like that sort of thing, well, it is for those who like that sort of thing, or whatever the saying is.
Yeah.
Just so someone's going to understand it. And so, yeah, I think that all the rejections, when I first started getting them, especially in grad school, I think was really hard. So I started in the middle of the pandemic. I started in 2020,
Mhm.
graduated in 2023, defended in early 2024. And so just to give you a little bit of background of
Yeah.
like the context that I was living in, like post-COVID. And so that's already throwing everybody off. And then at the same time, trying to be like a working professional writer when there really isn't like obviously like the market was virtually non-existent like
Yeah.
for a
It
while.
was a
And
weird
then,
time.
yeah, it was just a weird time to put it frankly, and
Mhm.
simply. And so now we're also really facing a market, right? So we kind of talk about the ugly side of publishing is that everything is about a market. Everything is about a genre, right? These hideous words that Beyonce told us to not listen to anymore through Cowboy Carter. Shout out to Beyonce. Taught a
Mhm.
class about you, love you. Come on. And so, yeah, I think that trying to write in these times contemporarily, I think is also hard with
Yeah,
dealing with that rejection. And so
absolutely.
I think that context to the rejection is also very key with when are you trying to write? What kind of stories are you trying to write? What kind of markets
Yeah.
or audiences are you trying to hit? And so, yeah, I think all of that for several beats throughout my grad school journey and afterward maybe kind of made me doubt myself a little bit, or made me think, oh, no one is gonna remember this or find it interesting, just as you're just slogging through and just going through the journey. But
Yeah.
I will think back to those fellowships I've gotten, those people who were interested, those publishers who said, yeah, send me the manuscript, and know that someone's going to find it interesting. And so I think it really is just faith in yourself and just this little
Yeah.
voice that just keeps pushing you through. But also take stock of those little moments of evidence, because I know that I struggle with this. I know I've heard so many friends who struggle with this, so I know this will benefit someone. We tend to just psychologically, as a society, really focus on the negative. That has become so ingrained in our minds to do that,
Yeah.
to the point where it has become automatic.
Mhm.
anxiety, depression, et cetera, et cetera. It's the reason that so many of us need therapy now, right? And so we
Mhm.
focus so much on the negative and we forget those little glimpses, those positive things that happen that push us forward. And
Yeah.
so something that I try to do, I'm going to step outside of the writing box and just for like 30 seconds
Yeah.
and get
You're good.
into the human box. Something that I do is I write down those positive things, or just even like my CV. I edited my CV right before this interview and sent it off to someone. Um, Remember those things, like just take stock of your achievements. Remember those things that
Mhm.
you did very well. That has pushed me through, along with my community, having a strong community, people who support you, people who say it's okay, when you get a rejection, and people who say woo woo, when you get an acceptance or even a waitlisting. Like get people who
Yeah.
celebrate you, through their rejections, because all of
Yeah.
that is a part of the process. Don't deal with rejections alone. Have a strong community, keep track of your achievements, and believe in your damn self because nobody else will. Okay, that's
Well, let me ask you a little bit more about community.
yeah,
You and I met at AWP, which is
yes.
a writing conference. We met at an offsite event, and I met so many cool people at that event. And we were all just people who were in the same place who loved writing. Um, why is community important for writers?
Oh wow. It's so funny that you ask me this because this has been like the crux of this publishing company that I'll talk about for like 20 seconds.
Yeah.
So I have been for the last couple of years in the midst of transitioning my independent writing consultancy into a full-blown publishing company and a magazine. We are officially launching later on this fall. I don't want to say too much and
Okay.
overspeak, but just look out for that, on the socials and on my website and like all of that.
Yeah.
But in the midst of all of that, we have been yeah, just trying to figure out like what our true identity really is and what is the problem that we want to solve. What is
Yeah.
the need or the gap, the void that we're trying to fill in the writing community. And it really turned into having a place to write for all voices. And also having a kind of community that isn't just a place to publish, but a place to also have dialogue. And there
Okay.
are so many amazing publications that do so many things already, but we really wanted to do it in a very particular way and in a way that solves some of the problems of the publishing industry, right? So
Yeah.
print publishing and all that. So we're fully online and we're multimedia. So it's writers across diaspora and who write across genres and technologies. Again, for myself, who writes really weird things, I
Mhm.
incorporate a lot of music, video, photography, hyperlinks, maps, data, all sorts of stuff into my
Mhm.
writing. And so I think for me, finding a community of writers who also does that, the first step for me, I think, was my best friend Noah, Noah X Mixon, who was also a brilliant writer. And I think the second step was finding, my academic community in Chicago as well as in grad school. And now it's been finding that in the world at
Yeah.
conferences, people I meet, people I connect with through the business world,
Yeah.
and just knowing that everyone has a story to tell. And as long as they have a place where they can share it and hear other people's stories and even talk about what they're hearing, because I
Yeah.
feel like we will read something brilliant and the only people we have to share with are like the people like in our immediate community, which is wonderful.
Yeah.
But I believe in comment sections. I believe in
Yeah.
sounding boards. I believe
Yeah.
in long, Reddit threads, having dialogue, having
Mhm.
conversation. And especially right now, we are in a place where in our world we need conversation across culture, across
Mhm.
geographic boundaries, and across the internet,
Yeah.
and even across physical spaces. And so that's something that is still really important to me too. Making sure that I'm going to conferences and going to places to physically connect and to grow that network, right? And so I
Yeah.
think that it's this kind of constant give and take, and just knowing that someone has to share their story.
Mhm.
And I think the last thing I'll say about that is hmm, knowing what story to share with which people at which time. because
Oh.
I've been in certain moments in my life where I'm working on something that needed to be protected in a certain space,
Mhm.
or that can only be written in a certain space. So I'll go back 3 years ago, two writing residencies that I was doing. One of them was at Rutgers. I'm forgetting the full name of it, but it was through their like Center for Race. And it was a Poets and Scholars summer um, program online
Mhm.
also. So
Yeah.
again, the importance of online spaces
Mhm.
for writers to commune and to write and to exchange feedback on their writing. Because that was primarily a Black space, that was a place where what I was working on at that time, I was working on this poem that is kind of a recurring thing throughout my novel. This manifesto, if you will, it was literally called the Black Time Manifesto. I
Cool.
needed to work in that, like on that piece, in that space at that time. It
Yeah.
couldn't have been done elsewhere. I needed to be
Mm.
surrounded by Black writers on the internet in our different spaces around the world, thinking about these different things as they show up in our unique communities across the
Yeah.
diaspora. And so that particular kind of conversation could only happen in that space.
Yeah.
And similarly, I went to Lambda Literary a couple years ago for a retreat, and I was working on. So my protagonist, Miles Crescendo, is also queer and non-binary. And being at Lambda, where I like to call us queerdos, we're all these queerdos, these like fairies, we're just like running around, just all these super weird queer writers where we could just be ourselves, but also in a very
Yeah.
strange space. We were at a Catholic school.
Yeah.
That's where it was held that year. And so, like, our classrooms all had crucifixes in them. And so, also, very funnily, everyone is writing about very religious themes. And so,
Mhm.
I ended up writing this very weird, queer Jesus in my piece.
Interesting.
That has kind of become one of like the pinnacles and like the kind of funniest parts of my work that people really enjoy when I'm sending out chapters. And so
Yeah.
that piece can only be written in that space. And
Yeah.
so I just say to writers, be mindful of also like who you share your work with. Protect your writing,
Mhm.
like when it's not ready for other eyes, when you're working on it with yourself. Writing is a very sacred and spiritual process. And so
Mhm.
just just listen to your spirit. I'd say
Yeah.
all that in a bubble, just listen to your spirit. And your
Yeah.
spirit will guide you to the communities that you need, in the name of community.
I love that. And I agree. I think that it's so interesting to approach writing with this understanding of not everything is for every community, and it's okay to be parts of different community and
Yeah.
get
Yeah.
the feedback from those different communities. The important thing is that you are putting yourself out there and like finding those connections.
Totally. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And I think especially like I think that again, AWP keeps coming up. I think
Yeah.
AWP does that very well, where one of the best features is the readings at night. Well, so first of
Mhm.
all, just the panels, people kind of self-select because
Mhm.
they self-select to such particular things because there are so many things to offer. And also
Yeah.
the readings are so incredible in that they're also half of them, well, in one sense, there are all these sorts of reunions where people get to come together.
Yeah.
Run into people like old friends all the time who I haven't seen in years. And I'm like, oh my God, you're here. People haven't seen in like eons, and that's so beautiful. But
Yeah.
also there's spaces where you can really, read that super personal piece, and someone's gonna
Mhm.
feel you, someone's gonna understand you. And so I
Yeah.
think of that as a microcosm of the worldwide and even, I don't know, intergalactic, reading
Mhm.
community. And that someone's always going to find value in your piece. I think that that is the most important lesson I've learned as a writer, as an editor, as a publisher, as an educator, and as a human in the world, in that every story matters and someone is going to find value and truth and relevance in what you have to say.
I agree. I agree. Absolutely. And I wish I could just put exclamation points after
Yeah.
everything you just said.
Yeah.
But yeah, I completely agree. And I love being in writer communities because I feel like when you are with the right people, they want you to lean into the weirdness rather
Yeah,
than restrain yourself.
absolutely.
So when you're with those people, like you kind of feel like you can write anything and do anything, and it's just very
Mhm.
inspiring.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Be a weirdo, be a queerdo, be a great writer.
Yeah, be all of it.
Be all of it.
Before we say goodbye, What was your favorite thing about writing Rapture in Blue?
Oh, such a good question.
If you could choose just one thing, I know people ask me my
Yeah.
favorite thing about writing my stories. It's an unfair question, I feel like,
Yeah.
but when you think about the experience, did you like really connect with your main character? Were you like,
Yeah.
oh, I just love like physically writing? What stands out as being a great moment?
Yeah, this is such a yeah, this is a beautiful question to ask and to answer as I have now come to the completion of it. This is so well timed because I just literally wrapped up the final edits on it like about like an hour ago and started
What?
sending it
Wow,
out.
okay.
So not like final edits. Like now I'm waiting to hear
I
back
got
from
you.
publishers and all that. I'm clearing it out, but now I have like manuscript that's like done. Like there's nothing else to do until an editor sends me notes. And so
Yeah,
I can give you a real answer. My favorite part of it, okay, I'm gonna rope in like three things into one.
that's
My
fine.
favorite thing in the spirit of community was really communing.
Ooh.
Um, and so this book was firstly a deeply spiritual work. So I'll give
Mhm,
you a little bit of background on it. So my father passed away in 2015, and then my partner passed away in 2020. And I've lost many, well, I don't like to say loss. People have gone on to the next realm in my
mhm,
life. Lots of other people since then, even in between those times. So I've grown very, very intimately with death,
mhm,
or I've grown very intimate with death rather. And I don't say that to um give a sob story, and I also don't flinch when
right.
I say it because death and I think especially in Black communities it is automatically a very intimate thing. It can
Mhm,
often be a very violent thing. And it is also a very cultural thing.
mhm,
And so this book invited me, it gave me such a wonderful, not just an excuse, but really a kind of pilgrimage through my own heritage. I've gotten to commune with my father and my partner and so many others who are now on the other side.
mhm.
I've gotten to learn more of my ancestors. It's gotten me to have certain conversations that I never would have imagined me having about, past lives and, my Akashic readings and things like this. Some really just woo-hoo shit. Sorry, I hope I can curse. I'm sorry.
You can. You're good.
Of just some really, really woohoo shit. Like I have got into so specifically about the process, it is a music that is literally narrated by song. And
Mhm,
so my protagonist, Miles Crescendo, will listen to a song and ends up transported in time to that era when the song was created and really becomes this long, there are like over 100 songs on the ultimate list. And the lyrics are sprinkled throughout the book. And so it reads kind of like not just like a lyric essay, but like a lyric novel, but also a kind of
okay.
epic poem. It's also written in verse. And so I've had to really deal with being raised Christian. I haven't necessarily identified as Christian for over a decade. Sorry, Mom. But through this book, I've gotten to delve into so many other layers of spirituality, Hinduism, um, Yoruba, gotten to go to Brazil. So the other thing, not just going through all the music and really dealing and really deeply communing with my ancestors through the music.
Yeah.
And I think also connecting with those musicians. There's something really meditative about listening to a song on repeat for hours when you're trying to get a scene right so that you can fully envelop yourself in that
Absolutely.
music with writing
Mhm,
about music. And like I mentioned, the travel, I've traveled all over the world doing research for this book. I've gotten many grants and fellowships, gone to Brazil, Colombia, Paris, London, so many places where I had to go to the site and visit those spirits who were living in those sites. Going to Brazil and communing with those spirits, going to Mexico and doing a Temescal cleanse, doing all of these just 4.5 years of research for this book, and really deeply communing. It really feels it. I almost kind of grieve the end of it, because it's
Yeah.
like, wow, like I just got to live this life that I never expected. I mean, I'm looking at my fridge right now with all of these magnets from all over the world from doing research for this book.
Yeah.
And now it's kind of created this whole new life. Now I get to go back to Paris and teach about James Baldwin and go back to those connections I made while doing research. And it's just, this book has just kind of created a whole new life for myself that I never expected. And it's all because, I came into my MFA trying to write a collection of essays, which I am still almost done with. It is still in process, but this novel, like I said, demanded to be written first. And
Yeah.
so I'm so grateful to the ancestors, to my spirit guides, to the people who are living here with me still, who pushed me to keep writing when I really wanted to stop. There are a lot of times when I said, I'm really sick of this book. And my mom, my best friends would be like, no, keep writing it. Like someone has to read this. And
Yeah.
so communing has been my favorite part. The random Uber conversations that I've had, just
Yeah.
my acknowledgments are so long. And even this conversation now. So thank you. Everyone, please go out and buy, when it's done and when it's published, the Book of Miles, Rapture in Blue. And so it'll potentially be a series, we'll see. But book number one, The Book of Miles, Rapture in Blue by Matt Ford, coming to a bookstore near you soon.
Matt, you have been such a joy to talk to. Thank you so much for your time tonight. I really appreciate it, and I cannot wait to see you again.
Thank you. You too. Thank you so much. Thank you. Oh, and by the way, when I met you, you had blonde tips. I love the new color, darling.
Thank you.
I love
I appreciate
it.
it.